Okay, Facebook, you guys are back, looks like. I'm just waiting for the other two to come in. Okay, internet is fluctuating. Okay, stream's back. Okay, Twitch people, you're back. Facebook is okay. Okay, looks like YouTube is back now as well. I.e. Gremlins. Okay, YouTube is back up online as now. Yeah. Oh, you watched another Twitch too that had the same problem? Stream too? Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's something going on with the services today. It's because it's a Friday and it's March. Okay. So looks like we got everyone back. Oh, you can tell smoothly that gremlin's actually rotating now. Oh, that's good. Okay. Let me look at, hold on, let me just check the feed overall as well. Hold on, I'm going to look at it on my computer so I know the lag you guys are getting, if you're getting a lag, and what that lag is. So give me a second. I'm going to launch it on YouTube on my other computer, since that was our first problem. Make sure that we're getting the stream coming through. Okay. Okay, I'm getting feedback now. Okay. All right, seems to be good for everybody. Okay, great. Let me back to it. I don't know where we got lost, so I'm just going to go back again. We were talking about mesh balloon, and I was telling you guys how to change the thickness. Okay, so your thickness is controlled by your Z intensity. So whatever you put this at is going to give you your mesh balloon thickness. Okay, and obviously also I told you guys already about the shift key to put this, instead of being symmetrical like this, putting the balloon here in the middle, right? So again, drawing something out. Drawing a nice crown, something out, hold the shift key, and then I'll plop it in the middle. She's got a horn now. Perfect. It's exactly what. Okay. So now you've got the shift key. You got Z intensity for the ability to do that. Okay, to give us this. The other things now that you guys are going to need to know, obviously, is, before we even get to these questions, is there is a new menu in the brush palette for these particular brushes. Okay, so there's now a new masking mesh modifier. Okay, so then there's 3 sliders there. So when you hold the control key, you can see there's a resolution slider, a smoothness, and a bevel. Okay, so obviously the resolution, the one I want to really talk about right now, and the smoothness. Don't worry about the bevel. We'll get to that when we start putting the armor on her. All right, so now we have this resolution here. So this is, in essence, controlling the resolution of the balloon. Okay. If I drop this down to a lower number, when I go to create the balloon, right, it's controlling the resolution that we're going to get in this balloon here. That's what's going to happen. Hold on, I'm just checking. You guys are all online. Okay, just making sure everything's good to go. So Greg, is it possible to run these brushes function across a mask that already created? No. You would do, there's already features that, and that's what we discussed in the last 2 previous streams of this. So if you didn't see the last 2 previous streams, I'd go watch those 2 previous streams. There's already features that do that. It's still dropping frames for you? Okay, hold on. Let's try one thing. This is going to be murder for me. But as long as the stream improves. Hold on. I'm going to change the resolution of my Cintiq and even go even smaller, which is going to be brutal. I'm going to go all the way down, and let's just see if this helps you guys. Let's see if that'll help your guys' stream even more. I got to adjust the monitor now to be bigger. All right, let's see if this helps. So I'm going to now see, just having my resolution smaller will help us. I don't know what's going on. It could be, unfortunately, my internet right now, which I don't have control of. I do see my internet fluctuating. All right, well, I don't know. We might have to cancel this because you guys can't see what I'm doing. Yeah, you can hear me, but it's not getting you guys the video feed. I've never had this. I was just in a meeting with video feeds and everything. I'm seeing where we're at now. It's not the PC. I think it's something going on with the internet. 'Cause now we should be good. Okay, you got a video feed working there. Okay, I'm just refreshing on my side. Okay, I'm seeing a working video. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it playing, the video feed playing on my other computer then. So I'll just watch it there. I was trying not to have my internet being used. Okay. Okay, so again, back to this. Wow, tough start today. So the resolution, as you can see, is controlling what you get in your mesh balloon here. So that's what this in here, this slider right here, right? So you can actually now hold the control key and type in values now as well, because obviously I need to hold the control key to change the resolution back to 128. And so now you see if I do the same kind of thing here, you can see the resolution difference. Okay, so that's important. Now, the other thing that's important that we've done here is when you guys are drawing out, there is now lazy mouse with any lasso action. It doesn't matter if it's lasso select, lasso masking, or if you guys want to use lasso with the slicing brushes, a clipping brush, you can now have lazy mouse, okay, on the actual lasso action. So this is really important, okay? This is about getting a nice smooth stroke that's going to help you guys get those smooth strokes now. So obviously if I'm holding the control key while I go into this, I have now lazy mouse ability. So I can play with my radius here now, okay, and getting through that. So with that said, this is now also going to allow us that when you guys want to do something not smooth like this, but you want to do kind of like me, if I'm doing this to be a crown, I want something maybe more sharp happening to her like that, right? I'm looking more for something, a result like that, where it's getting me a little more sharper result. Okay, so here, I'll just do it right here. Okay, doing something like this. Okay, and then I'm just going to let go. So you can see, instead of getting roundness, it's starting to create, you know, points of interest there. Okay, so all I'm doing for that now is when you guys are holding down the control key, and again, this is why I started this with, look, I'm not holding the keyboard anymore, okay? Because then now what I can do is if I hold the shift key down, now I can draw a line out and say, okay, I want this, looking at that, I want the crown to go there, I want the crown to come up like that, and then to that, and then I want it to be sharp, something like this, and then come across and do, say, something like that, right? This is starting giving me a little bit where I want to go. And again, the goal of this is trying to create some just quick base mesh that I'm going to work on. Okay, so again, to reiterate, you start drawing, and again, I'm not holding my keyboard, right? Hold the shift key, and then hold the shift key, holding the shift key, holding the shift key, holding the shift key, and now I'm letting go, holding shift key, letting go, holding the shift key, letting go, holding the shift key, letting go, and then I let go of everything, and now I get the mesh, okay? So that's going to be crucial for me and for things that I want to do, okay? So what we're also able to do with this, right? So let's look from this angle. No, let's stay from this angle. We'll stick with this angle. Okay, I'm going to start saying, let's draw something that's going to go on her head. Now maybe something like this. Okay, and I let go. And this is, you can see this could even be a starting of a base mesh to hair even. Is there a key need to hold to get to go to the center in the blue? Yes, that shift key. Okay, so again, hold the shift key after you start drawing. Again, guys, you don't need to keep your hand on the control key. This is key, all right? This is important. You don't really need to do that. Once you started drawing this out, look, see, my hand, look at that, my webcam. My other hand's not on a keyboard, but yet I'm still drawing, right? Because the brush is already engaged. So now if I just hold the shift key, it plops it in the middle, okay? So to reiterate that. Now, what we can do is when I draw something out, if, again, this is a really important, this is like a super, Lisa needs braces. Look up here, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Okay? It's really important. And for me, the YouTube stream's still going fine. So, if you don't move the camera, you're going to now be able to do more to this particular new mesh that was created. Again, the key is not moving the camera. So now I can draw another mask. And again, to make these work and create meshes, you have to start at least on a surface. Okay? But now I can do stuff like that where I can actually cut out of the existing. So maybe I didn't get exactly what I wanted. And now maybe I want to cut out a chunk like that. And then cut it out. Cut it out, like that old show, right? So again, I've drawn out a surface, right? And in this case, I haven't moved the camera, right? And then now I'm hovering over the surface that I've drawn out, and now drawing a new one, and this time I'm going to hold the Alt key, and now I'm cutting through exactly what I've already created. And guys, there's going to be ways that we're going to expand upon this, especially when we get into going back and creating the armor. Okay, I'm just trying to lay foundational things right now. Okay, so that's nice. You can also, if you don't again move the mesh, you can add to the existing. Right, so now all I'm doing is drawing out more masks, and in this case, because I'm adding and I haven't moved the camera, if I hold the shift key, it's going to add volume. Okay, so now you guys know if I do this, hold the Alt key, it cuts through the existing. Okay, and if I hold the Control key and make a new mesh again, and now again I'm not holding the keyboard, and then hold the Shift key, it adds to the volume. No, Alpha, this is not in 2019. You're multiple versions behind if you're in 2019, and we have free upgrades. So we're now in 2021.6.1. You've missed now 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. 2021, 2021.5, 2021.6. You're behind by 3 versions now. Okay? Using dynamesh isn't wrong, Imperial. That's not too... I'm not saying that's wrong, using dynamesh to make a model printable. I just don't use dynamesh anymore to make a model printable, personally. Okay, and yes, I will be showing the other brushes. All right, so we've now got multiple abilities here. Now, we've got the ability to add to a surface. We got ability to subtract to the surface. And we're going to have the ability to even do that, which that is intersecting. Okay? So if you guys know live booleans, just think about this as an essence of live booleans to the new geometry being made. If you want to look in that sense, we've got subtracting ability, we got union, in essence, added ability, and what I just did there was intersect ability. Okay? So what intersecting means, okay, is if I got something like this, if I draw out a new curve like this, and if I hold the Alt and the Shift key, whatever's in the lasso is the only thing that's kept. Everything outside the lasso is deleted. Now, when you guys are doing this, again, I keep saying you got to be over top of a mesh. One thing you guys can do, and I'm going to harp on this keyboard thing multiple times, as long as you guys hold the keyboard and click on the surface, you can now use the space bar, right? And this is why I'm harping on, hey, you don't need to hold the control key. I'm not even holding the control key. Now I'm just holding the space bar. And now I can start drawing something out, because maybe you guys are more comfortable drawing like that, and you let go, it'll still make the mesh, because the original click was on the surface, okay? And I will be showing the other way in parallel, but that's later on in other streams. Okay, I don't even have anything right now that I can, in this model right now, that would ready for print. So we're multiple streams away from making it ready for print in parallel. Okay, so, again, holding the control key, okay, tap on the surface, and now you can just move, and then draw out what you want to draw out, and let go, and then you'll get what you want, and now you have this. All right. So that's what the mesh balloon is giving us. It's just giving us a balloon surface and allowing us to draw something out. Now, one other bonus thing that I want to show you with mesh balloon, okay, besides knowing that we have a Z intensity here, which is giving us our thickness, and now we've got 3 new sliders for these particular brushes. Okay, so you've got the resolution, you got a smoothness, and a bevel. So the smoothness is making how smooth the mesh is, right? So this is the default. If I was to drop this all the way, let's just put it at 0 so you guys can really see. You can see, like, percentage, we're not going to want something like that, right? Okay. So you can see this is with the smoothness at 25. This is smoothness turned off, okay? So there you go. Okay, that's where we're going with this. And then to answer your question, there is, yes, I would use the crown possibly to make mesh balloon, but I'm going to show you guys multiple ways to do this. Okay. So here we go. So something else that's also really cool with this, besides just making these blobs like this, okay, I'm going to turn my smoothness back up because I want that smoothness back up. I'm going to come here to my depth and watch what you guys can do with this. If you guys start playing with this, and this is going to help you for things that even when I'm creating, where I'm trying to create this Banshee vamp, right? You can do this kind of stuff where you can clip, in essence, the depth. That's what these are doing. They're clipping the depth of your brushes. Okay, so now if I draw out, you'll notice, see, I'm getting a little flat area. It's not ballooned out. See, it's flat there, and it's flat in the outside too. So I'm not just getting a perfectly rounded ballooning shape right now, okay? Because I'm telling the brush to be clipped, right? So if we go here really extreme, we'll do inner depth. We'll go really extreme, and you'll see how flat now the inner portion is? It's like flat, okay? And then the outer portion isn't as flat. So now what we have is a profile like this. We've got flat, then we got rounding, and then flat. Okay, and this is not where I'm going to go with hard surface for sure. But I'm showing you guys this because you could go hard surface, but you got to start thinking about stuff like this, right? That of what I can take advantage of to really start making a very unique looking shape now. That's ballooning out, okay? So with that said, let's just keep this the way it is. By default, this brush, when you're creating stuff, you see it's just creating based upon the camera angle, right? And we're trying to create like some kind of armor on her, right? Especially if here I want to come to the shoulder, right? And I want to now create just a quick another piece of armor for her like this. You can see it's all it's doing is creating that, right? We're just getting, based upon my camera angle, I'm getting that look. And it's just creating now a mesh. And in this case, I'm getting flat at the top and flat at the bottom because again, once again, I have changed this, all these controls in here, right? So there's something else that's really important, okay? And for me, I like to say, if like I was going to say ZBrush had anatomy, for like real life anatomy, for me, what I'm about to show you is the heart of ZBrush. It's because it's really the brush system's whole thing that it's helping drive certain things in the brush. It's one of the major things of the brush system, and it's the picker. Okay, and we've added some options here. Okay, so this particular brush, okay, when I hold the control key, you can see the picker says once Z. Okay, so that means once depth. So it means the original click that I clicked on, find that depth and put everything else in the mesh along that depth, right? If I turn on continuous Z, watch what happens now to what we're going to make. So I'm going to do this. Let's make another shoulder pad here, and I want it to come like that and let go. And you can see it's now actually wrapping around the model. Okay, so this is super important. So now all the things we've already discussed, I can go, okay, I don't want it that thick. I'm going to go a little bit less thick and do something like that and go boom. And now we've got this. Like, this is really cool. I really like this in the sense, if you guys have ever worked traditionally, right? It's like taking a piece of clay and adding another strip of clay, and then, you know, working that clay into your work. Or if you worked with wax, if you're a toy person, this is how I see this. I'm now can build up with this ballooning. You can see it's looking at everything. Like, even if I put it over here on the face, you can see it's following her eyes. This, you see, it's going to try and follow the ear, right? So this is like laying down strips of clay now on our surface. Okay, but now you guys are starting to see where I'm going with this for hard surface. You're starting to see, I want something that's hard surface. Okay, this is starting to get closer and closer and closer, but it's still not very clean. All right, this is why we made another version of this brush. So instead of having surfaces that are ballooning out, that's why we call it a balloon. Okay, I want to have something that's very nice and crisp, and that'll look like clearly what I want to have in some of these, like this. Let's just look at this one. Something that's going on in here, right? I want to have a little more here going on with her. So that's why here, I'm just going to reset. I'm going to reset all my brushes just so if I want to go back to the balloon, all the changes I made. This is why now we have some other brushes here. So there's Mesh Extract Pro, which is proportional, and then there's Mesh Project. So Mesh Project is going to be my brush of choice for doing what we're talking about today. So I'm going to click on that, and now, okay, this particular brush is already set up with everything I've already now discussed. So now I can draw out and say I want that there, coming across, coming up, and you can see lazy mouse is on, and my radius is turned up really high, and do something like that, and I let go. Now I get this. Okay? And now you know, like, look how thick that is. That's just, like, what are we doing here for shoulder pads? You know, that's, listen, I love the 80s, and there were shoulder pads in the 80s, but this is pretty extreme shoulder padding now. Okay, and FX, I'm gonna show you, actually, even moving the camera, you're gonna be able to do some really cool stuff with these brushes. Don't worry, we're gonna get to that. Okay, so right now, number one for me, for my particular model, this is way too extreme. Like, I want this Z intensity way down. So let me find the Z intensity that I would want with that. Okay, that's getting better. That's getting closer. I'm going to go a little bit, even a little bit lower here. Okay, there. That's starting to look a little bit more where I want to live in for my armor piece that maybe I want to make with her, right? So again, I want a piece of armor that is coming up over the shoulder, coming down like this, and coming across, and then letting go. And then now we've got this following her body, which would make sense. This is kind of what I want. Okay? Yeah, it's extreme 80s is right? So, me personally, if I was going to go about doing this, I actually preferred not using the lasso. So this is the other thing. And again, the information I'm giving you guys, this is all relating to any one of these mesh. Okay? It is totally Twisted Sister. Yes, Matthew. I like where you're going with that. It is 100%. Totally. For those that don't know, go look it up. Go look it up. You nailed it. Yes. All right, so me personally, instead of using the lasso, even though I know I can now adjust the radius here now, I know I can hold the shift key. I'm holding the shift key. Let go of the shift key, hold the shift key, and do stuff like this. Okay, to get maybe a piece that looks more like that. I personally, and this is just me trying to highlight this now, you can use use other strokes in essence. Okay? And so the lasso has the ability now to use this new also slider, which is your smoothness. So that's kind of also helped me getting my smoothness. But I can use also the rec, right? So I can draw out a rectangle, position that where I want, and boom, I get a rectangle that's wrapping to her, right? Which means I can also use a circle and get a circular shape that's giving me now that, right? And for me, especially, hold on one second, I gotta, bless me. This update's already available. You can you can update right now. It's alright, it got launched this week on Tuesday, and we're already released a patch on Wednesday. So we're at version 2021.6.1 now. Okay? So you're good to go. So what I want to do is actually, I really liked using the curve. This one became really important for me because I really liked this. And again, this is a personal, I think, preference. And then doing stuff like this. I just found that to be a really nice way to, okay, that's a cool now piece of armor for her, right? I just found this a really nice, unique way to say, okay, I want a piece of armor that comes across here, here, here. And you see, I can use soft, then I can transition to harsh, right? And now I definitely want to go soft through here, maybe like that, right? And let go. And now you got a piece of armor that's like that. That's kind of supporting where her frame is, right? This is going to help protect those obliques in a way. Okay? So no, once you rotate the model right now from what I'm showing you guys, you cannot add to this. Okay? This is made now. You can only do the other things now if the camera is not moved. So if I do something like this, okay, if I don't move the camera, you guys have the ability now to say, okay, let's go like this, right? And then start playing with this ability through here. Okay, as long as the camera doesn't move, okay, you can keep adding and adding or subtracting. But obviously you guys are asking these questions because if I'm trying to build something, I would want to be able to start moving the camera around, okay? Because I don't want to just create something, you know, like this, right? And then say, okay, I can even switch to this and, right, play with some different ways to work with this, okay? That's not really what I'm looking for. I don't want to just doing this and then doing this. I want to be able to manipulate and change this. Okay, so this is based upon on-screen space, and then it's looking at the mesh. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add something to our workflow. All right, and then this is where this can start coming very useful for us. Okay. So I'm going to turn on live booleans now. All right. And when I do that, okay, I'm going to, let's just make something there. Okay, so you can see this is part of the same subtool. So when you can see right here, the only subtool that's on right now is her body. And you can see, okay, that this is set, right? And there you go. And to Ryan's got a great, where his mind's going right now, Ryan, your mind's going in a great spot. Yes, you can store cameras. You can store up to past probably any number that you guys need. I think if I remember right, it's 65 cameras. But there's also 2 ways to save camera orientations also. There's not just one way. So if you want to save a camera, okay, orientation, all right, all you have to do is in the draw palette at the very bottom, right here, you can store a camera. And the storing of the cameras, this all saves with the project. So this is the benefit of saving a project over a tool. So yes, to answer your question, Ryan, I can do something and say, let's put it in practice so you guys can understand where Ryan's trying to go. This is a great idea, Ryan. I like where you're going. And I say store camera. It's going to ask you to name it, right? And then you would name this maybe shoulder, right? And then now that's saved. And then maybe to come in here and you say, okay, there's this, and now I want to store that. I'm going to store camera, and I'm going to call this abs, just because it's looking at the ab area. And now you can see here, there's two ways. Hi from Finland, thanks for joining. Okay, so you can hit abs and then shoulder, and you can see it'll bounce back and forth. Now, you must have perspective mode turned on to use this particular feature, because this is storing the perspective camera, is what it's storing, right? And if I turn off the perspective camera, right, this isn't going to work as the way maybe you would want to. So think about that kind of stuff as well. It's about the perspective camera, right? So you can see when it switches, perspective is automatically getting turned back on. Okay? So if you're trying to store with this, it's only going to use perspective to store it. Okay, now, if you're maybe working hard surface, right, and especially since there's certain features you want where you don't want to use perspective, obviously that's not going to be a way you can store the camera view. Okay, because if I want to now have perspective and non-perspective, I actually can do both. Okay, so an old way of doing this, okay, is going into the movie palette and turning on timeline. Now you've got thousands of cameras here. Thousands upon thousands. It's really how many dots can you make now, right? So all you got to do is make a dot. And you see it says camera track here. So you see it's saying camera track, and I made a dot, right? So literally all you have to do is do this, make a dot. Do this, make a dot. And it doesn't matter where the dot is. Do this, make a dot. Okay? And now that I have these dots, let me move my keyboard, I can actually cycle through the dots by using your left and right arrow keys on the keyboard. And so this one's not looking at if perspective's on or off. So it doesn't matter if perspective's on, it'll still work. If perspective off, it'll still work. So there's two ways for you to do it. Obviously, a lot of people are obviously in perspective, and so they're using this one on the bottom. And also keep in note, this particular one, the other benefit of this one in the draw palette for you all, the FBXs, if you guys are going to export an FBX, we'll actually export all the cameras out of here as well if you want to export, okay? And vice versa. If you guys are in another application and you've got certain camera angles that you want to bring in and have them inside of ZBrush, if you do an FBX, as in, here I'll type it just in case you guys are understanding what I'm saying with FBX. So this extension, I'll put it in chat. Okay, there you go. That will also import any cameras that you guys have and put them here. As long as you tell it when you're doing the import and export, we'll ask you, do you want to import export cameras? Okay? So there you go. I use this all the time. Especially when I start doing rendering inside of ZBrush, I'll use both of these all the time. So, and both are saved with a project. Okay? So that's also the important part, people. If you save a tool, this is not going to get saved, and this is not going to get saved. This can be saved individually, the timeline, right? So you can see even load timelines individually. So if you're going to go this route, it might be better for you to start using projects then. Like if you're going to use this in some kind of work that you're working on, save a project so you make sure you don't lose what we're talking about right here. Okay? Perfect. Okay. So no, this does not solve, though, where I think Ryan's mind was going. It's like, I'll store a camera, I can go back and redraw and keep using these alternate and alt and shift ability of adding to the surface, right? I think that's probably where Ryan's head was trying to go. He's like this, okay, and now I want to start doing other things here, right? Well, right now I've turned on. Here, let me go backwards. Let me turn. So I think your mind was going like this, right, Ryan, where you wanted to do this. And now I'm adding with the shift key, right? And then, of course, if you guys draw and hold the alt key, you start subtracting out. And then this is all still updated on the surface, right? And still all working. But the minute you do this, that's it. There's no more using the ability of these brushes to go and cut through all this. This is why there is another workflow that's going to solve everything that you guys are asking me, okay? Everything. And in fact, let me get something real quick just to give you guys a conceptual idea here especially for those that didn't watch the release stream. Hold on, let me get something real quick, and let me load something real fast here. Ooh, 1 second, please. Okay, here we go. So, this is where we're going. And again, these streams, we're getting really involved here. So, all right, let's get this guy. So, here's an example of something. In fact, I think the last time I opened this, I was in another beta version. So I've got an issue. Hold on. Sorry. The model that I was working with was opened in something else. It's just that kind of day for me today, apparently. Hold on. I'm going to just... Come on. Windows is not liking me today. The whole system. There you go. Thank you. Hold on. I'm just going to kill this. Alright, the mesh I pulled up, I actually had made changes in a different version that when we were transitioning and giving you guys a new patch. Show 1 second, please. Hold on, I'm not gone. I'm just loading something right now. Okay, there we go. All right, so in essence, everything we're trying to do is what I've done in this model as an example. Okay, so this is an example of just like some hard surface piece, but in essence, we're doing the same thing with her. Okay, so if you look, okay, we've got this, but if you turn on live booleans, this is really what I made. Okay, and everything you see here is what we're talking about today. And obviously, I want to now do this same thing with her now. Okay, so in essence, I want to recreate something like this, but I'm going more medieval now, not sci-fi. Okay, but everything you see in this particular bust was 100% done with 3 things, really. Okay, it was done with the brush that we're talking about right now. And a brush I'm going to get into in a second. It literally was done with 3 brushes. The entire thing was done with only 3 brushes. Okay? So, let's get back to her now. And let's dive into this and seeing what I'm talking about here for the workflow that I'm trying to give you guys to solve the problems, right? So this stream, unfortunately, because we have a new version, I'm using it also to kind of walk you guys through these features as well. Right? So, let me load her back up. Okay, hold on. I did press load. Oh. Wrong folder. There we go. Man, I'm on fire today. Okay. So let's just clone her. Let's just clone her and let's just then look at her again, just only her. Okay, and forget about all the other armor I've made now. Okay, so let's redo some armor now with the new feature. So I'm going to turn on live booleans. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, because live booleans is on, and I'm going to select now this mesh project. When you guys come in here and say, okay, I want to make a new shoulder piece. And watch, I'm going to do this on purpose so you guys can understand what I'm going to. So I'm going to go, okay, from this angle, I want this to come through here. Hold the shift key to the end. Come across. Hold the shift key. And then now maybe round it out like that. And then do something like that and let go. Okay, what's my problems? Okay, if you remember my Z intensity, we knocked that way down. So let me just Okay, that's better. That's what I want. So now, again, let's redraw something out here. Okay, and you see this big red line? If you guys want to adjust that red line, that's what in Lazy Mouse this is for. So if you guys drop this down, that red line won't be, see, as long. That red line's helping me keep a little bit more steady of a stroke. Okay, I'm going to go, like I told you guys, I liked working with this. This was just, for me, it made more sense to work this way for me. Okay, now, I've turned on live booleans. So right now, what this is doing is what you guys are used to. We've only got one subtool. That's it. Nothing else. Okay? And what I want to do now is something completely different. All right? Like this. What I'm going to do now is when I draw something out this time, let's go there, to there, to there, to there, and then do that. You can see what happens now. I'm getting this mesh, this new mesh, okay? But it's a new subtool over here. Okay, see that? So I've got now, it's not on her anymore, right? So this is what's very different now. If you turn on live booleans, you're now in essence making another pathway for us to do some things here. All right, and where the benefit comes into this is going to be answering everything you guys are asking. Okay. So if I do this now, okay, I'm rotating and moving, and now I'm gonna say, okay, I want to do a little something else with this armor piece. I'm going to come across like this. And then let's go here to here to here. And then let go. And then now watch. If I do the math, you can't even tell that was done by multiple strokes. We are now solving what you guys wanted for the sense of, hey, I need to be able to move the camera maybe to could do some more. So this is a workflow now that you can move the camera. Okay? And Battle 1, that's not true anymore. This is why we released a patch. If you're going to get the most recent version, 2021.6.1, and it will run on Windows 7. Okay? So you need to get the most recent version. You need to get 2021.6.1, and then you're fine. Okay? So I can now say, oh, I want, you know what? I don't really like this view of the armor. I want to do some more, you know, I want to do maybe something also different here on the back. Okay? So now I'm doing this and say, okay, I want it to come down, I don't know, I'm going to come down like that, come down like that, and come in like that. And then I let go. And what's happening is we're adding more pieces to the existing subtool now. So you can see, okay, it's just adding more parts to the subtool. All right? And I'm going to eject this. All right, so hold on, everything isn't just not liking me today. So there you go. I've got that ability now to move the camera. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to want to be able to do, okay, if I'm really doing this, I want to start also creating some armor that might look a little different as well. So maybe I want to go, all right, I want to come in here, go there, to there, to there, across and back up. And then now I'm going to do that. Boom. Yes. Right? And look, it's already got a bevel. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, yes. This, for me, created just a ridiculously fast workflow that just made sense for me, right? Now I'm starting to do very unique, okay, of what's going on in here. So I am now, if you look, creating, I've got a subtool that's the pad, and now I've got a subtool that's actually cutting into the pad. Okay? And all this is having live booleans turned on. Because now we're using live booleans to do this. That's it. So in essence, guys, there's two different workflows using these brushes. And it's not just this brush, people. It'll work with this mesh balloon. If I come and use the mesh balloon, right? See, it cuts in as well. All these brushes are the same, in essence, base. We've just added turn things on and off with each one of them to do different things. Okay? So there you go. No, this only works with strokes. Freehands, it's not going to work. It's only going to work with strokes, i.e., lasso, curve, circle, rectangle. It's not going to work, okay, with something else. And yes, it'll 100% work with color as well. Yeah, 100%. Right? Now, so now look, I can come fill this, right, with a color, right? So I can say, let's just fill this, you know, maybe you want to fill with a color as well. So you, yeah, this subtool is a different color now, right? So as you're doing this, right, and I'm making things, okay, this is just another subtool in here, right, that you could start manipulating, playing with. So I can start, you know, doing stuff and see, now I'm grabbing green. Make sense so far? Okay, so what's happening? Let's walk backwards. Let's undo these. You guys got to know how the heck I even did this, right? So number one, when you're now going to draw it, if you have live booleans, I'm going to stress, if, you guys know where this is going. Lisa needs braces moment. Lisa needs braces moment, okay? If you have live booleans on, okay, and you hold the shift key, what we do is we make a brand new subtool right below the existing one. I'm going to turn the color off because I don't want this crazy. Even though it's March, I don't want green. Okay? It's making a subtool automatically, and you see it set into union. In essence, union is weld, right? Make everything be one mesh. In essence, that's what a union boolean is. Okay? And now, if I do this same thing, all right, and let's just do it right here, and I move the camera, right? And now if I hold the Alt key, it's doing a new subtool, but it's automatically setting it as a subtractive in the Boolean option. So you see that icon right there? Okay? So there you go. This is that workflow now. All right, so the thing you guys got to understand, though, if we're going to go embrace this workflow, okay, you got to understand also this will happen. If I'm now selecting this particular subtool, right? So I need to start on this subtool over here, right? So if I do something like this and I let go, you can see you're getting kind of like now almost like stepping, boom, 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 because you guys got to remember this brush is projecting to the surface. Okay, what it's really doing, if you guys from the stream, this brush has got continuous turned on, right? So what's happening here is there's still her body being seen, right? And then there's still this. So it's seeing that, and it's trying to match both those surfaces. Okay, so if I undo this, and I turn her body off, and now I do something like this, remember, I got to start over the mesh, and I let go, you guys get something like that. And you see the projection stops. It won't continue on into the document space now. This is the difference having continuous Xeon and one Xeon. We're not going to continue that. So it stops right there. Right? And this is, I use this as a benefit for me all the time. Because maybe, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to do something like, okay, click. Let's move this. I'm going to go there, to there, to there, to there, and then just let go. And because I'm adding to a subtool that already exists, and that subtool already has the Alt key. So I'm not holding the Shift key. Okay, I'm not holding the Alt key or anything like that. I'm just adding. Okay? Does that make sense for everybody? No, you can't use the history for this brush, but there's other things we're going to be able to use the history. Right? So what's happening is every time I draw on this subtool, we're making all these at the same depth. Right? So something for me is, say, if I wanted to, say, take a kind of like a chunk out of, we'll keep it green because you guys can visually see the difference. Okay? This is why I might switch to a different brush now. Instead of project, I might switch to extrude here, right? And I'm going to go just even thicker, And then now I'm going to say, I like using the curve. Again, this is a personal preference, people. Okay, doing something like this. Let's do that, that. Holding the Alt key, letting go. And you see this is creating a piece that's doing that. Right, so it's cutting right, just camera view. Okay, so you see there's a new subtool of that. So what I'm going to do is this now. I'm going to say, you know what, let's do the Z intensity a lot less on this one. And let's redo that again, okay, to doing something again like this, holding the Alt key, and it makes a new subtool. So this is a new subtool that I can move around, okay, but the difference with this subtool is it never projected to the surface, see? It's just a cleaned up mesh, and so I can do things. I'm going to turn on local symmetry. I can do stuff like this, make it wider with the gizmo, and then do something like this, and now maybe shrink it down. And see, I'm using this to cut through and make a completely looking hard surface piece. So this is the difference now, people, of using something like the ability projecting to the surface, and this one's not projected, so I can do a lot of different things here now. And because I have the gizmo, it's whatever I want, however I want this to work. I've got a lot of different options here. Right? This is giving me so many ways to start now working. And I'm going to say, okay. And what has happened here, you can see that mesh is a new subtool. Okay? Right? So that's all I'm doing here is kind of mixing all these up together. Right? And to get where I want it to be. Right, so if you turn off the body, it's no longer going to look at the body to project to. So if I'm trying to just manipulate these and I only want certain things happening to these, this is probably what I would do, right? So this piece is that. And so now if I want to start cutting in stuff, and now I want to do it back to the mesh project way, I can start doing stuff like yes, right? Holding the Alt key, boom. And then that's creating a subtool right below the one I just had selected. Now, the question came up, what about other things, right? So let's not forget, guys, you can switch to a circle and I can do this, right? And I'm not holding the keyboard at all. Look at me, right? And all that did was add it to the existing subtool, so that's automatic. I already know that's going to subtract in, okay? And you can move, I can zoom up, I can say, let's do that again and let go, right? And now it's making another one. If I want to go again, I can hold the Alt key, and now see it's going, made another subtool, and then this one, see it's going all the way through because of where it was created. Like, this is going to start opening up a lot of different ways for you guys to work, right? So that means, obviously, you can also use the rec, okay? So in this case, you can use a rectangle to cut into the surface. Now, obviously, someone I saw in the chat asked a question, right? What about an alpha? 100%. You can use an alpha, right? So what you guys want to do is, in this case, I want the mesh to follow the form of what I'm making here, right? I don't want it to just be like a stamp. I don't want it to just be bing on the camera. I want it, if I got a form, I want it to follow that form, right? So that's why I'm using the mesh project one. I'm going to change it to rec, not drag rec, but rec, okay, as in rectangle. By default, it's going to be square and centered is going to be on, okay? And what I'm going to do is now just grab an alpha. Here, let's just grab the star. You can see it's a star. I let go. Boom. I get a star. Right? And then I go, okay, now inside there, I want to do another star. But this time, I'm going to hold the shift key. So now it's a raised surface. Okay? And then now the question came up. I'm going to delete this one. Is how to control the beveling. So maybe this raised surface star, I don't want such an extreme bevel happening here. Okay? So I'm going to come over here and again in the brush This is why there's a bevel slider. So if I knock down this bevel slider more, okay, then the bevel's going to be different when I go and do this, right? So I'm going to do a star like that, hold the shift key, and you can see I'm getting a very different bevel now on the star. But then that's still following the surface, see? So think about stuff like, think about like Batman and Superman, or like even mine, right? The Z-Man logo. You can literally just grab an alpha, and now you can just use this brush and bing! And then you would already have a bevel on it, and then you guys can control that bevel. And sound effect is so important. Bing! To this as well. Okay? So that's how you adjust your beveling. Okay? Is right here. And again, I can actually now hold the control key because I'm on that matte brush, and I can actually now type in a value 0.5, hit enter, and then we're back to this. So anything's going to work. So if I grab, say, something like this, see it's in a square, right? I probably also want to do an alpha that's probably more like that if I'm doing this. Okay, and you see it's squared, so you guys could also turn off this square, and now I can say, all right, let's put that here. And see, I can get it to be a rectangle as well, right? And then it's going to create that. There's so many ways, guys, for you to start working with this and using this, right? And again, because I have live booleans on, I now have the control to tell ZBrush what needs to become a subtool, what's going to be added to the subtool. Is that subtool subtractive, union, or intersect? Right? And if you want to use this for some kind of re-topologizing or something, like, I wouldn't really use it for re-topologizing, but yes, you can. It's a great question by Morph coming through, right? I'm just going to grab a different shape just so you guys can see it. And let's just soften it so it's not faceted. Okay, so what we've been doing here, right, is doing this, right, and then getting a shape that we are creating for you guys that has a thickness. It's got a back polygroup, top polygroup, middle polygroups, and then the bevels themselves have polygroups, and you can see it's also creased, every one of those edges. Okay, so if you guys, there could be times, and I've used this workflow for I think where Morph is going. If you drop your Z intensity to 0, right, it's still going to work, but what it's done is created no thickness. It's a thin plane. So you guys can even do that with this if you want to with these brushes. If you drop your Z intensity to 0, then you're going to tell the brush have no thickness at all. So why you might want to work this way is you can go this route, and then you can use dynamic subdiv in essence to do stuff for you, right? Because now technically here, if we do this and split this off, right? This is a mesh that's got no thickness, but we've got other things in ZBrush like dynamic subdiv. And of course in dynamic subdiv, there's now a thickness slider. So you guys can do stuff like this, and then you can control where your thickness, but here on out, right? Everyone that I draw instantly is going to have a thickness. It really doesn't because it's dynamic subdiv that's doing it, right? So this would be a workflow 100% you could go with. And I could 100% use this for something that we're going to do. When I want to do some cool stuff on the armor for her, I'm going to do something like this for sure. It's a one-sided plane now, Ryan. It's a one-sided plane because my Z intensity for this particular brush is set to 0. If you set it to 0, that means no thickness at all. All right? So there you go. So let's go. Now that we're starting to let's put this in context now. And let's start building something else for her, right? So let's just rebuild like this. Let's build something like this piece. Maybe go a different route now than what we have. All right, so I'm going to turn that off. Okay, I'm actually going to turn off symmetry. We're going to get in here. And I'm going to say, let's do, I like curve. I'm going to turn that off. And I want to build another piece of armor. Okay, I've got live booleans turned on. So what I'm going to do now is say, okay, I want a piece of armor to kind of follow what I have going on here to maybe there. And then I'm going to come down like that, harsh, come down like this, maybe. And then now maybe it rounds out here, okay? And this time, I'm going to say, let's hold the shift key, right? And what I want it to do is create a new piece like this. And it has, right? But I also still have my intensity set to 0. So I want a little bit of, I want some volume here. So I'm gonna go, I don't know, let's see what 15 looks like real quick. Let me just get something and see what I get. I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. So we'll go a little bit lower there. Okay, so again, following a little something. And then maybe start following down that path and letting go. We'll put it on the existing mesh, right? Which is this subtool. That's not what I want to do. Okay, I want to put it, I want to make a whole new subtool. Okay, so I'm going to again, doing like this. And then I'm going to softly go around, harsh there, harsh there. Let's go harsh here and then soft through here, holding the shift key, and then there. Now I've got a new subtool that's following what I have going on here, right? And then in this case, I didn't turn on symmetry, so that's an easy solve. Okay, so I can just mirror and weld it over without local on. And now I've got this armor piece starting to happen. Now the benefits that we have here now is I can start playing with this a little bit more, okay? And I'm going to turn her body off now because I want to start doing some more things to this. So number one, I'm going to switch to this mesh extrude ability, okay? And I'm going to say, let's put something here. So I'm going to turn symmetry on for this brush now. And I'm going to say, let's do a little something maybe that goes like this, to this, to this, to this, holding the Alt key, letting go. And now what this is doing is this is cutting into the surface, right? And I can stretch this and give myself a little cutout part that I can manipulate and move around, maybe go a lot smaller, right? So this piece is going to start creating like a cutout, and then I can change the profile of that a little bit and start doing this. So what's happened here is I made first this subtool, which is that chest part or that abdomen part, right? Or the ab part, right? And now I've got another subtool that's actually set as a subtractive. Okay? Go ahead and ask your questions. Could this be a texture for the sphere? Well, this is creating a whole new surface. So, but technically, yeah, if you brought it into a program where you can look at arbitrary meshes, you could create a normal map from that. Yeah, sure. But normally, make-believe TV, I would sculpt on that surface to create some kind of texturing on like a sphere or whatever. Okay, so what's happening here now is that, right? I've got a subtool positive, a subtool negative, and then now what I want to do is kind of keep playing with this. So let's now, right here, let's do something else. Let's go up, across, and maybe like this, and across like that, and like this. Maybe something like that, and let go, right? And this is being added to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back this time to the mesh project, okay? And I'm going to say, let's add instead, I don't want to go all the way through this time. And this is just me trying to give you guys ideas of how you can use the brushes, right? And then now, see, I can have something like that. And this is how I'm going to start making some detailing of the armor. But obviously, first, I need to get the armor piece that I want. Okay. Can you wait, you're asking if you want to print obviously, that's what we're doing here. We're making something that's going to be 3D printed. Yes, that's what it's doing. It's conforming to any underlying surface. It's already doing that. That's what this brush is doing. And then part of the surface is sitting inside, so there's overlapping geometries, so it's perfect for 3D printing. Okay? So that's what you can get, right? So you're asking me about, I don't really have any fancy alphas. Oh, well, technically, I take that back. We do. Okay? We actually, in Lightbox, also what's new to this is we're giving you guys some more alphas. Okay? So there's different types of alphas here. Like, let's say this one. This would be a good one to play with, right? You guys, now, if you double-click on this twice, it'll load it to the alpha palette, right? So what I want to do is, with this brush, now select that alpha, and I've got a subtool selected that's subtractive. Then I can come in here and say, give me that, and then you're doing something like this. Okay, and I'm going to say, all right, I want it to be squared, so it stays perfectly squared. We're doing this. Okay, in this particular one, I think the bevel's a little too extreme for this alpha. So I can come in here and say, let's drop the alpha, and start doing that. And now, what you guys got to be going down the road with this, okay, is going here to your alpha and modifiers, and then I can say, how about I tile this, let's say 4 by 4, right? And then now when you're drawing this out, so you're getting more of them actually being drawn out, right? So this means you can grab any alpha. Like, I'll grab, say, something like this, right? And now you've got this, and I can say, okay, I want to do something that's more like a 3 by 3, and draw that out and put that where I want, and then let go, and now you're getting something like that as well. So once you have an alpha, you can do more with it, of course, by using some of these modifiers. So the highlighting part here, obviously, is you guys got other alphas. And if I'm holding the control key while I double tap, it's going to add it to the mesh project brush, right? So you guys can do whatever you want here, right? So there's a lot more alphas for you guys to use now, right, to get to this. Yeah, you can make an alpha any way you want. Okay? Daniel, this is not looking at millimeters. It's not it's not doing that. Right, so it's not doing anything like that. There's no measurement in the sense that this is only cutting in a certain millimeter. There's nothing like that. And it's not using Z depth, Jimmy. It's using the Z intensity to handle the thickness of the mesh. And that's what's controlling how far it digs in. Okay, so this is leading to what somebody just now asked. Someone's asking, well, can you make your own alphas with 2.5D? Of course. But guys, you can make your own alphas with anything in ZBrush, right? So you can even use a mesh, right? I can grab any mesh here that we have, right? I can even say, let's load the dog. And I just do this and say that there's my dog. All you guys got to do is go to alpha and say from mesh and then there, right? This is creating, and now see, I can even rotate the dog and position the dog the way I want it. Here's your map size, okay, which can go all the way up to 2K and all the way down to 2, which would be pretty much pointless, right? So 512 for me is enough. And you say, okay, there's now an alpha, right? So you can use that alpha even in this, but the thing to understand here, if you're going to do something like this, okay, we go back to, where were we? Here we go. When you go back to using this, let's see what happens. Okay, I'm going to draw out, there's my dog, I let go, and then that's what I get. Right? So the depth of the alpha can't be used for this particular brush in this way, but clearly you can grab stuff and create an alpha. So obviously someone's question just came up is, what I'm going to get into now with this, is I'm going to now switch to curve alpha. Okay, it's over here now. Curve alpha. And now you guys have the ability, Okay, I'm gonna turn her back on because I'm gonna do it on her. I have the ability now to actually draw out along a curve, and what's actually controlling the profile of the curve is an alpha. That's what's controlling it now. So now I can click anything here. I can click these three triangle, and you can see these are going to be used. So you can see there's actually three meshes there now in that stroke. Because it's using the, I can even grab, right? If I want to grab the dog, right? We can grab the dog. And then now this is literally using the dog. So if we, hold on, let me flip it. Look, it's using the dog to make the brush. Right? So it's now just looking at so any alpha you load, people, can be used. Now it can be used for cutting in, right? And now we've even given you the ability to use dog hair. Nice. You can use it along a stroke now. So that's what this new brush is doing, is a curve alpha. Okay? It's looking at the alpha and then just applying it. That's what it's doing. Okay? Pretty simple. Pretty easy. Grab now any alpha that you want, and you're off and running. Like, so I loaded here. Let's see what the handle one looks like. I don't even know until I draw out. So let's see what this looks like. Right? So now you're getting something like this. And this brush is tapering by default, and it's doing a lot of other things that we'll get into here. Okay? With that said, though, everybody, besides just doing an alpha, we went another step, and this is a brush that's one of my favorites, and I'm 100% using this brush on her, and I'm going to use it on her in a second here. There is also another set of brushes. There's now a brush that's called Extrude Profile. Okay, so there's two of them. There's Extrude Profile, and there's Extrude Profile 2, and I'm going to show you the benefits. Okay, and yeah, making a hose is easy. 100%. Yeah, just if you want, right, just grab a hair. You can already do it there. There's a hose. You just make an alpha like this, right? And then now you've got a hose. Here, I'm going to turn off I'm going to turn this off so you guys can see it. See, look, it's a hose. Yep, it's that simple. Really easy. We're taking the alpha and then along the curve. And you got to make that sound effect too. Along a curve. Go ahead. You all try it with me. Ready? Everyone go. Great. Fabulous. Okay. So we took this another level, and for me, I really like this. I really like the extrude brushes. The difference here now is we're not using an alpha anymore. Nice. I like it. We're using geometry now. So you can see there's all these geometry pieces. So when I draw this out, this is what I get. But really what this is geometry that's being extruded along the path now. So you can see that shape right there is what that shape is right there, right? And now we're just repeating the shape. Beep, 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 beep. A new sound effect for this one. Beep, 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 beep. All right, all the way to the end, and you can see it's at the end. So we're capping the front, capping the bottom. Thanks, Bad Bud, for participating in the... And now you guys got another one. Okay? Okay, so what I have here is the ability to even grab a surface that's completely flat. And now the benefit of this, people, is you can like, oh, I don't know if I want that one. What's that one look like? Right? I can swap out real fast, just click something new and see which one do I actually like. And there's going to be way cooler stuff to do with this in a second here. Right? Look at that. Yes. Yes. Right? Stuff like this. Okay? So this is set up with some new features turned on that are automatically doing things. So in this case, right? This is why we call them hair 3, because they really look like kind of like hair. Especially for what we're doing. We're going to be doing a piece that needs to be 3D printed at a small scale because we're doing a miniature. And I've got stuff that's got ribbing and ridging and start doing the hair. Okay? Yeah, if you do there is a circle. Yeah, you want to see a circle? There you go. There's a circle. It's all welded, people. It's all welded. Hence, beauty for 3D printing. This is all gearing up. I'm just using the new features now, and then obviously I'm going to be using them on her. Okay, and then you can even, now here's a torus. So this would have an opening. See, it's open. Like here's a t-shirt looking thing, and see it looks like a t-shirt. Here's one that, look at this. This has got a bunch of just square shapes, and look, it's just creating it. So maybe you want to use something like that and really start, and then you're not going to be 3D printing. You're just looking to make something that looks cool for the purpose of, you just wanted something that starts looking like hair in 3D. Okay, and off and running. Right? So, everybody, let's first do this. Okay? Let me put this in context. I'm going to walk you through some features. So let's grab this piece right here. Okay? This piece right here, and we're going to turn her off now. So I made this nice little quick armor piece with what we've been talking about. Right? And if you look at it, it's got poly grouping, right? We've got beveling. Great. Great. Great, 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 great. Watch this. I'm going to duplicate this. Bing! Okay, so I have two of them. I got this one, and what I want to use a duplicate for is this. I'm going to show this top one. In fact, I'm going to go one lower. I'm going to go this low. Okay, so I'm showing just a portion of that mesh. Okay, I've got a brush, in this case selected, that's going along a curve, right? And now we've got flat topology. And I'll show you how to make one of these so you guys can wrap your head around this, okay? So, what I'm going to do now is tell ZBrush, stroke, and curve mode's turned on, and there's new features here that we're going to take advantage of. But in the curve functions, I'm going to turn off creasing and polygrouping and only have border. Then I'm going to frame mesh. What that just did is made, in essence, you can see a curve. Now just tap. Bam. Yeah. Like, look at that. Right? So this is what we're looking at now, right? So now I don't even need right now. I don't even need that right now. And now I can say, well, I don't know if I like that one. Do I prefer this one? Do I prefer, which one do I prefer, right? You guys can cycle through. So again, I'm using the existing mesh to drive what do I want this to look, right? And if you're looking at this, this is going to be really important for me to start working on this, right? So what I would do is actually grab this one, profile, and this one is made perfectly to do that. And now I just cycle through and see what kind of detailing do I want to have on the outside. I like this one a lot because it's like flat and then it's rounded, and then you can go the opposite direction, right? There's just different ones to look at. So you just click on this, people, and you just tap, and you're going to get a result real fast. Right now, of course, if I say, okay, this is the one I like, now I just, you know, this particular subtool, the only thing I want to keep is that. So I delete hidden, turn everything back on. And then now look what also is happening. It's still also being cut out, right? Because in my hierarchy, I've got the original plate, right? I now have a new subtool. That's the border going around. Okay, and then the next subtool is doing all the cutting into the surface. So someone asked, guess what? This one, Extrude Profile 2, because I'm on a subtool that's subtractive, I can now scribe line, instant scribe lining. And I used to do this before this feature all the time. Okay? So live booleans is active. So if you want to do where your head was going, you need to use the Extrude Profile 2 because it's built for this, what I'm showing you. It's built with adding detailing around the edge or adding little things like that. So I'm going to go crazy like doing stuff like this with her, right? I'm going to be, you can even say draw out, hold the shift key, and it'll be a straight line, and let go and say, okay, what does that look like from there? You guys can do whatever you want. You don't even have to make it a straight line. You could do a curvature line. And then you're getting stuff like that. You guys could get really clever with this, right? Again, watch. Let's duplicate it again, right? And I'm going to do something now completely different. I'm going to show only this part. I don't need the rest, so I'm going to delete it. I'm going to switch to a different brush. And I'm going to switch to slicing. Let's do slice curve. Okay, and I'm going to say, let's go to here, and maybe do something like that. Okay. Then I'm going to go straight across, I think, there. Okay, that'll look cool. I don't even know. Maybe I'll throw this in. So let's get to that and throw something like that in, maybe. Let's make sure it's actually a perfect squared circle. That. Okay. And I want that to be the same poly group. Okay. And I'll just mirror and weld this over. So now this is what I have, right? People. You got to be thinking outside the box here, right? I'm going to go with this one. I really like these first two. I use these first two a lot for my work, personally. Now I'm going to go to the stroke, and this time I'm going to do polygroup, frame it, right? Now I've got this. Let's go with the smaller brush size and tap. Now I have something like that, which is, that's cool in itself. Okay? Done, right? But now, this time, let's isolate this one now. So I'm just going to split them for now, right? I'm going to turn this off. So now what we have is this, right? But what I can do is turn this into a subtractive, and then there. I'm already subtracting into... Right? So in essence, I'm using the existing surface to help me make line cutting in here to get what I would want to get to have things cutting through there, right? So this subtool, and this is non-destructive, so if I get rid of it. Okay, so making these is really easy. There's multiple ways to do this. Let me guys show you the first way, okay? Because it'd be cool. I'm going to take the dog. Watch this. You can now... I'm going to take the dog, and like we did over here, I'm going to say from mesh, so that picks the dog up off ZBrush's document, puts it in so it's going to become an alpha. I'm going to say okay. So now I got this dog alpha. And what I'm going to do now is there's a new feature. I'm going to turn on flat here. And now I say to mesh, and what we create is a flat representation of the dog. Because if you want to make and add to this extrude profile, you need to have flat surface. That's the number one thing it's looking for now for along curves. Curves built into them, they are looking for flat surfaces. Okay, so if this has got to be perfectly flat, looking at the camera, you guys can't rotate it or anything like that. You need to look at it perfectly flat and don't do anything like this. Okay? The topology doesn't really matter. It matters in the sense this is going to be used on the brush now. So flat dog here, I'm going to add it here to the end. So now all I got to do is go to brush and say from mesh. And now you can see the dogs at the end of this extrude profile. And then I'm just going to go bigger so you guys can see it. And then now when I do this, yes, I get a dog. And like someone said, dog hair, right? And the profile of the curve is driven by the dog. So what this means, everybody, you can take anything, and turn it into being along the profile, right? So in this way, it's not using the alpha, it's using the physical mesh of the dog to do this. Okay? Wait, for me, the stream is still going. Stream's still going for you guys? Twitch people, stream still rocking and rolling? Because someone on Twitch just said the stream died for them. Okay, it's back. Okay, it's back. All right, so, everybody. The thing here, though, is if I'm making these brushes, this is pretty dense, right? If you look at this, this is already 58,000 polygons. So it means the caps alone are going to be 116,000 polygons, okay? So this is why these ones, right, if I go brush now to mesh, right, and I want to start using these, right, I got the dog, or I want to start going through these, okay, I want to start working on these differently, right? So these are just, in essence, flat planes. So this is all they are. I'm going to grab a plane. Okay, I'm going to change my initialize. Oops. Okay, so it's something like this. And there's obviously many ways to make a plane inside of ZBrush. And now I'm going to use ZModeler. Okay, so I'm going to switch to ZModeler. Let's make something different. Let's make something different here. All right, so let's do an insert like this. I'm going to do an insert like that. And okay, let's switch to masking pen. Let's switch to my defaults. And let's make it taper there. Okay, and then let's taper it out there. Okay, let's add another edge loop. And I don't know, I'm just doing something, right? But the key thing here to understand is this is very low, low, low topology, right? It's right now we're 10, 1, 2, 3, 4 polygon faces, right? Let's add a little something else into this. Let's do an inset, something like that. And I'm going to even delete the inset there. And I think I'm going to, I'm going to make it so it's not so, I want something more like that, I think. And let's move these down. And let's move this one down. So do something more like that. And in fact, let's do the opposite. Let's do like that. Okay. Yeah, that's better. That's what I'm looking for. Something like that. Okay. So let's go back to that Extruder 2 profile brush. Okay. So this brush is already set up, ready to go for me to use something that's going to extrude, same distance all the way, same width all the way through. Okay. And then I'm going to say, all right, I'd like to look at this and say, let's add this to the brush. So now I'm looking straight on this. Okay, so let's rename it just so it's also renamed in the subtool. Mesh 01, I'll just call it. And so now I can say brush, right? And I'm going to say from mesh. And then let's make a version the other way. Okay, brush. And then I'm going to rename this one now. My caps locks was on when I was naming the mesh. So let's name this 2. And then that way when I pick it up, see it's taking on the name mesh 2, mesh 1. Right? And what we've done here now is we made a version of this that's doing that. And you can see it's hollow all the way through. Right? And then I can switch this one and it goes the other way. So I can make 2 versions of this because depending on what you're trying to do, okay, is important. Right? So if I take this and now I start drawing on this, right? Do you want it to sit inside that or do you want it, no, like outside like this? Right? What are you looking for? Right? And then this particular one, you know, when I'm drawing out like this, I might want this, okay, to sit a little different on the surface. So I'm actually now raising the depth of this so it can sit like that on top of the surface as well. Right? So I'm gone in the depth for this particular one and told that depth to be there. Right? So now see this circle, does that embeds at 0? This one embeds at 100. This one, the embeds at back at 0. Okay, so which would be beneficial for you guys. This brush is set up to work positive and subtract. So in essence, positive and subtractive. Okay, so what I mean by that, if you guys look at all these shapes, you notice that they all have the same thing, top, bottom, like top and bottom, top and bottom, top and bottom, they're all the same, right? So when I go to here and switch to this, I'm getting that, but I'm also getting it inside the surface as well. This is why the embeds are set to 0. Because now this brush can be used the way we were using it before, right? Where, well, what if I want to use it as a subtractive? I can turn on subtractive and see now it's cutting into the surface. So I would recommend if you're going to start building your own, like I started building my own, okay? Let's see, where's the meshes that I was, messing with. Looking for, there we go, there it is. Okay, so if I was, honestly, I was building this, instead of doing this, right, where there's two, all I really needed to do was something else, right? So I'm going to turn on my floor. Okay, and what I needed to do was this. I just needed to say, let's rotate this and have it going through, in essence, that X line, right? I want a little bit to go through that X line like this. And then now, come to a mirror and weld. And I'm going to do a mirror and weld along the Y so I get that. Right? And if I don't want this edge loop in the middle anymore, that's just, you know, use ZModeler to get rid of that. And if I don't want that creased, I don't have to have that creased. Windows keyboard, right? So you see this? It's the same thing, right? So if we go back to our extruder, right? And now if I grab, again, I'm looking straight on a flat plane surface. And then I say from mesh. So see, it's this, I don't need these two. This is enough for me. This is all I need, right? Because no matter when I draw this out, I'm getting the same thing on both sides, the top and the bottom. So if I decide to use this going back to this, if I want to use it as a positive, I just draw it out and it's a positive, see? And it's, I don't have to do any embed changing. It's positive. But if I change my mind and go, no, I want it to be a negative, it's already set being a negative, okay? Like I wouldn't 3D print this. This one's not 3D printable because I'm making a hole going through all the way, right? I wouldn't do that. But there's so many ways now to use this. Like we come back to, let's see, this, right? I could have some fun with this. Like say, i.e. this portion right here, this part right here. I can now say, I can do something like this, draw a straight line, and like make a profile look of that. And I can even move this still and have something like that, right? That will make a very different looking result to this armor piece now. Right? So now that is actually this, but because I'm on a subtractive piece, that's what it's doing. Okay? Does that make sense for you guys? So I'm just now combining things that we've been talking about these last 2 hours. Okay, no, you can't rotate the shape on the curve completely. You can rotate it, yes, you can rotate it, but you can't rotate the entire thing. Okay? So in essence, like when I draw this out, here, let's go on positive. When I draw this out, you can't now tell it to just rotate this whole thing. You'd have to have a mesh flipped a different direction. But you can rotate sections of this. And going with a larger brush size, I'll rotate more of it. Right, so this is me clicking on the curve and then holding down Control to do this. Right? Does that make sense for people? So there is obviously some other new features, okay, in here. Let me see if I missed any questions that popped up before I move on. We're running out of time, unfortunately, because I have to get going soon. Is it possible to make mask selections more visible? What do you mean, Jimmy? You want your masking to be darker? Is that what you're asking for? Like when you mask, is that what you're asking for? If you can elaborate more on that. Okay. So, there is more going on here also that we have. Okay, so I'm going to go about this a little bit more quick because we're running out of time. So let's go back to the curve alphas where we're using an alpha now. And I'm going to go back to a star just because you guys can see. So this brush by default has new things turned on as well. So I'm going to go back to making it be tapered. Okay. So if you notice, it's just following the surface in a different way. It's a very unique way. It's a totally different way of following the surface now, right? So if I went to let's say curved tube, if I draw this out, see what I get? I just get a straight tube, right? Very different. So number one, I'm going to want to turn on the size, and I'm going to flip it vertically. So this size is going to look at this graph. So this is now going to give me this, right? So what I'm getting is a straight tapering tube now. Okay. And so now I want to add some other things into this. Okay. And what I'd like to add into this is some new options that we have in the curve. There is now a bend start and a bend end. Okay, so what those are doing, I'm going to grab back a brush that's going to be more understandable for you all. So this one's got it turned on by default. We've got bend start on. What this is doing, based upon the blue cursor, not the red, the blue, okay, if I grab this, I can start moving this around. But if you notice, the only thing that's moving around right now is from the point where I clicked and the start. None of this is changing right here. So none of this little, so if I click up here, see, the only thing that's changing now is this portion. That's why it's called bend start. If I come way down here, now only the tip isn't going to change as I start moving it around, right? So that's what the bend start is doing. And obviously bend end is doing the opposite. If I click wherever I click, right, now only from that point to the end can actually change. And you can see the top part isn't actually change. Okay? And then now I can actually even click on the whole last point and move the whole thing because bend end is on. So the original way that you guys have, if you don't have this newest version, would be both of these buttons are turned on. Right? And then this is what you guys would be used to. Okay? But now we've added the ability that when you draw this out, I might only want to bend certain portions, right? So that's why maybe I only want the start to bend, so I can kind of just readjust some things, move that around, and make it actually work a little bit more with the way I'd want it to work, but not change any of that that's going on. Okay, so there's your bend start and bend end. It's pretty simple. And what it's looking at the topology, right? So this is looking at this spans a topology, and it's looking at this for the bending. And then what we also have added now is a repel. Okay, so this is a repel strength of 4. So this is saying, look at the first 4 rows of topology and actually make them come off the head before they go flat. Okay, so if we do this on the simpler brush to look at first, let's undo the curve, okay, and say brush, and go back to this curved tube. Okay, so now we've got this. Okay, I got that, and now I got bend start. What I'm going to do now is put repel on to 4, and now if you see, if I do this, see it comes off the surface before it starts working. So if I do this curve now, notice that, see, it's trying to come off the surface first, right? So that's what it's looking for. It's coming, like shooting out first before it starts reacting. That's what repel is having us do now. So now you have a repel with controlling the fall off. The lower that number, okay, the stronger it'll repel off the surface. So see, it's coming off the surface a lot more, right? And then obviously the opposite direction, the higher you go, the slower transitional. So see, it's repelling a little bit, but it's really just more following the surface, right? So then we go back to this brush. This has got that turned on as well. So you see it's coming off. So even if I do this, see, it comes off the surface first. See, it's coming off and then starts going, right? So because we got a repel of 4. Now the other thing, which we've already discussed in this stream that's new, is what's important. Remember the heart? There are now 2 new picker options. So there's a closest, which you can see this brush has got it on by default, and then there's a farthest. So what closest is doing, when I draw like this, people, I get a stroke that looks like that. Great, so if I was just to do something like this over the ear, you can see what this is doing. Okay, so let's grab a different head and you'll see it even better. Let's grab something else. Let's grab this, because you'll see it better what's happening, so we don't have shoulders and everything. All right, so I'm going to do this, and you can see what's happening here. Okay, it's repelling out, following the surface, bouncing out, because it sees now the next closest piece of the geometry on this head is actually the ear for the curve. Right, so the curve found the ear, and then now it's saying, that's it. No longer from that point on, look at the surface, because every part of the surface is further away from the curve. So in essence, this point right in here, this area right in here, that's the closest part of the head mesh to the curve itself. So then from that point on, keep the curve straight unless you found another thing to pop out onto. Right? Really quick to this and did something like this, where, and actually let's switch to the move. Right? So you can see this is now sitting out a little bit further. Right? So now if I was to do that same thing with this brush, see it bounced, so it bounced out following the head, bounced out to the ear. Oh wait, there's more ear sticking out further, and see, then follow the rest of that. So that's what the new option is doing. Okay? And then farthest is just doing the opposite. So if I did that same stroke like this, see, it's found the furthest, the jaw area is actually the furthest in thing that it found to snap to. Because when I drew this, that's what it found to, and then the rest of it is lining up. So I can do stuff like this. You can see it follows, finds it, and boom, straight up. So farthest is just the opposite, right? It's just looking for the furthest point that the curves come in contact with. And then now if there's more curve, the rest of it matches that furthest point. Right, so all this stuff is turned on the curve alphas and the curve pro. Very cool, people. And this got brought up, so I'm glad this got brought up. When you're drawing these out, because this brush has got closest on, so let's just use this one. And I'm drawing, and I want to make something that looks like, like trying to make stuff that looks like hair. If you notice how the hair kind of just keeps popping, right? See how it keeps popping? And what it's doing is popping further and further and further and further and further and further away. Because we have the option right now of closest. So the closest part of the mesh is no longer the face, it's all these other things I've drawn out. That's why you see these hair, if I keep drawing this, they're going to keep, see, they keep coming further and further and further and further away from the head. That's not what I would want, right? That's clearly not what I would want. So what you guys have the capability of doing is you can tell ZBrush, you know what I want you to look at? I don't want you to look at the state of the sculpt now, where it's at now. I want you to look at the state of sculpt in a different time. I want you to look at the sculpt like this. Okay? So I'm going to hold the control key and tap on my undo history here that I'm sitting at right now. Okay, now watch. If I draw out now a curve, okay, so you can see there's a gray marker. Here, I'm going to draw now a couple more of these, just separated. So you guys can now are going to see what's going to happen here. And then now, if I start drawing like this, you guys notice the difference now? Notice that it's not coming further off the surface. Because what ZBrush is actually looking at now is not this head. It's actually looking at this head. Okay? So for example, if we do this instead, let's do something like this so you guys can really get this. Let's do some sculpting detail. Like here, let's do a blobby here. Let's even, right, do a blobby here, do a blobby here, right? Switch back to that profile brush. Okay, and then when I'm drawing it out, notice how it's not connecting to the blobs anymore. Right? See, it's going through it. Okay? Because I've made a marker in the very beginning. See, history 1. I told it, no, don't even look at this state of the model anymore. Look at the state before there was a blob. So if I want to change that up, I go to here, hold control, boom, and I just change that state. So now when I draw this, see, now it's starting to find the blobby. Official term, the bumps, we'll say. See, it's finding the bumps now, and now it's not going through the surface. Right? And then someone like me, you guys can do stuff like, now you guys got to be outside the box. Watch this. I'm going to even just do a completely different surface and say, let's put this, turn on transparency. Let's put this inside the head. And this is the kind of stuff, because again, we're making something that's going to be 3D printed here. So guys, I'm going to be using all these techniques. So I'm actually literally already showing you guys techniques that we're going to be doing with my Banshee woman. And I'm going to have to start getting more sculpt done for you guys for next stream. But because we had a new release, I knew you guys wanted to see the new stuff. So you can see this is sitting, this subtool is sitting inside the head right now, right? So look, you can't see it. Okay. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make a control mark on that now. Go back to her, right? And I don't want a control marker on her anymore. I only want the control marker on this subtool, which is I reshaped it. Now I come back to her, right? And I like this one a lot. Redraw this, right? You can see it's still seeing her, but if you notice the hair now particles, they're doing kind of a combination of both now. I'm getting, it's finding her surface, okay? But, right? It's also actually, if we turn this off, face off, right? This is going to all the way down and using this actually as a driver. Okay, it's looking for this now to start working with on her, right? That's what I want to start happening. I want this, in essence, to be ignored. And I want this to be the item that you're drawing on, right? That's what I want you to start looking at. Okay, so this comes in really, really handy. So, guys, this isn't just for this brush. This is now any brush that you use curves with, this all works with. So now the curve modes, we've improved it, we've added options, and now we even allowed you to use undo history, and not even on the same subtool, on a completely different subtool if I wanted to. Okay? I'm gonna take your face off. All right, so guys, is there any questions you have about this? So I'm going to have to work for next week's stream, right? Next Friday is when I'm streaming. Fridays at 11. Because again, our ultimate goal here is to get a piece that's printable, 3D printed for a miniature, get it to Scott at Miniac so that Scott can actually paint it, right? That's our ultimate goal. So I need to get going now that this version's out, because that's what was tying up my last couple weeks. So I'm streaming in on the 12th of March. So what I'll do is I will try and have like the armor to a point where I'm really happy with it, will be my goal. So a quick question for me is what? Is there a way of moving a subtool to the gizmo position? Yeah. Yes and no. Yes and no. So in essence, you've done something like, say this, and you move your gizmo off, and now you want this mesh to move to where this gizmo is, in essence, is what you're saying? That's what you're looking for? There is a tricky way to do it. Sure. There is one way to do it, but no, none of these options are going to now say, hey, mesh, move to the gizmo. Because these are all gizmo. If I do home, it just moves it, but there's nothing there's recentering, but there's no way to tell it. There could be something we can add for this, actually, now that I think about it. There's no way to do that, but I could do something like, let's just grab anything. Technically, you would be able to grab the surface like this, and then now that surface is there, right? Even with this, I could do this, right? And wherever the gizmo is, I tap on this and we'll swap it out wherever the gizmo is. So technically it's a yes. That's why it's a yes, no. There's no button that will move the mesh straight to the gizmo. where the gizmo is in space. It's the opposite. Gizmo moves where the mesh is. Right? But you could technically do something like this. This patch is already out, Matthew. You can already get 2021.6.1. It's already out. We released this Wednesday evening. Actually, early morning Thursday, our LA, Los Angeles time. This is already available. Okay, does that help, Morph? Okay, there you go. That is one way you could go about doing it. Can we create a new subtool from the curve alpha brush? Sure. Just split it off. Yeah. Yeah, that's sure. And that's with any curve. Right? So if you're using the curve alpha, you're just doing this. And by default, this gets masked off, right, that I drew on. You just come down here and say split. Use pretty much any one of these options. And then just hit this, and then there, it's a new subtool. Okay? That would be the fastest way to do that. All right. Any other questions that maybe I missed because I was in a rhythm here? Feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme. Get on up. It is ZBrush time. I don't think... let's see. Wait. Can you move Subtool with the gizmo? See the position. Yes. You have position sliders. Yes. Yes. So to your question, so if you look at this subtool, you could come down here into geometry and there's position sliders. And you can see the position. So let's just make this easy. Let's just do 2 by -1 by -1. Right? So this is now sitting in that position. If I go to another subtool, right, and we'll go to the eye, right? This is sitting there, so I could go 2 and then -1, but it's using, right, this to do that. It's using the bounding box, though. This particular mesh has a bigger bounding box. Right? It's a completely different bounding box. So the better thing would be, an easier thing to do would be do the trick I already showed. I'll go a little bit over making supports. I don't make supports inside of ZBrush. There's no point. Formlabs, the software, does a great job of making supports. So yeah, I'll touch on that, but that's going to be like the very last stream in this is in essence this streaming, guys. I'm not trying to do everything in one. This is a series. So this is already number 3. And then obviously because we had a new version, we were going through the new stuff. Okay? So this is going to be a different way of going from here on out. Now, I'm just going to try and start making this Banshee woman. So Scott isn't waiting forever for me. And I can get this piece to him so he can paint it. All right, so my goal will be every week I'm further along in this Banshee model. And then with every one of those streams, I'll cover the process that I did throughout the week. Your screen right now is NFT worthy. Oh. Yeah, it's pretty funny right now. Okay, so I unfortunately got to get going, but I thank you all for watching. If there's nothing else, I'll see you all next Friday, same time, 11 a.m. This is a series stream with me creating a 3D print ready piece. Okay? And the S key is fixed now, so you got to be using 2021.6.1. So let me cover this since you just brought that up. There's a new sticky ability now. We added an option that when you guys are switching the S keys, you can actually now hold the S key and you can just move your hand. I'm hovering over back and forth, okay? So if you're having an issue with the way you use the S key, it's probably just a combination of the way you kind of tap and use this, okay? This is why we released a patch. So for the person that asked, if you're in 2021.6, go get 2021.6.1. Solve your S key problem that you're maybe running into, Oliver. So, but there's holding now S key down, I can just move my hand back and forth, and then I'll actually change the draw size. Okay, so you can either tap S key and then left mouse click. You can tap S key and right mouse click with a hover. And now you can hold S key and then just hover back and forth. Okay? So does that help out, Oliver? So if you're not using 2021.6.1, go get that one. Just go run the Z upgrader and you'll upgrade to the 0.1 option. Good? Just waiting for Oliver if you're still there since you asked the question, and I'm glad you asked it because I forgot to cover that. Okay, perfect. All right, so again, I'm Paul with Pixologic in a stream here that we're looking to make a Banshee, a vampire woman with some armor. Okay, I got to work on her this week for you guys so we can be further along in the next stream. And then we'll be passing this over to Scott at Miniac to do a hand painting episode on his channel. So we'll be going from our channel here at Pixologic to his channel at Miniac to do this. Okay, yes, there's an update from when you installed on what I don't know, Wednesday. Doug, look in the top left corner and see if it says 2021.6.1, you're in the most recent version. If it doesn't say up here in the top left what I have up here in the top left, then you're not in the right version. Okay, so it's got to say in the top, what Make Believe TV just put. If you don't have that, Dougie, then you're not using the right version.